everyone. My name is Pooja, and I am the CEO of a company called Tefra Labs. We're building a seamless crypto payments platform called Fern. And today, I wanted to talk a little bit about sort of some of the friction that exists in wallet experiences today and why it's important to solve them so that we can bring the next wave of users into Web3, and also some ideas for how we can do this on Filecoin. So first, I just wanted to start with just kind of placing this, taking a step back basically, and just thinking about how the role of wallets has evolved over the last several years as this industry has changed and grown. 10 years ago, wallets were very much a purse to hold assets. And that was really like the primary function that they performed. And today, as we've seen, Web3 has just absolutely exploded. There's so many different opportunities for people to interact with novel applications powered by blockchains. Web3 wallets are now not just a purse to hold assets, but also the path to all of these experiences that exist in Web3. So, it's kind of a heavy burden for this humble wallet primitive that we've had for many years to bear. And I think another element too that is sometimes underappreciated is just the fact that, as users interact with more dApps and are just doing more in Web3, more of their identity is actually captured in their wallet as well. And it is very much the case today that your wallet does hold a piece of your on-chain identity. There's some of the images here, just, reputation scores that are associated with actions you may perform on chain that mean something about who you are, what communities you might be a part of, art galleries that you curate, which gives people who are, looking at your profiles a sense of what your cultural tastes are. And also just even something like an ENS domain, which is tied to a real world identity as well. So this is really, wallets have really changed a lot, and the role that they play in Web3 has changed a lot over the last several years. But it is very much the case that still today, wallets are the first entry point for every single Web3 experience that a user is ever going to interact with in some shape or form. And so it is really important that we nail the wallet experience to bring people into the space. As I think I have definitely experienced, and maybe many folks here have experienced as well, there are still today a lot of limitations that lead to pretty significant user friction when people are interacting with wallets. We live in a very multi-chain world today, but it is still the case that most wallets are local to a specific blockchain. And even in a world where, you have EOAs that maybe can respect the same public address across many EVM compatible chains, the underlying assets that are held in these wallets are still segregated to the underlying blockchain. And for users to kind of even have visibility across all of their assets that exist on these different networks, to be able to move these funds from one network to another, that today is still a very manual process. And I think many of us have probably experienced this. The UI is absolutely terrible. And I think and UX around this experience is just horrible. And I think really, shocking, especially sometimes when you place it in context of what people are used to with fiat banking experiences and fiat payment experiences in the world. So I think cross-chain interoperability is something that is still really painful today, but is just becoming more and more important over time as we have kind of this explosion of L1s and now L2s and L3s that provide different homes for users to keep their assets and different elements of their on-chain identities. Another element as well is just the trade-offs that exist with different wallet custody models. Today, there are still the dominant mode for custody that exists with crypto wallets today is still non-custodial wallets, self-custody. And obviously, this is kind of really a core part of the spirit of Web3 and something that people are really excited about in our space for good reason, because for the first time, we have blockchains that give people both like complete ownership over their assets. But, the flip side of that is that it comes with responsibility as well to protect your funds, maintain access to your wallet at all times. And that's something that, does come with real trade-offs. And for many people who are new to this space, this can be this can be kind of intimidating and a little bit scary. I'm not sure if okay, got it. I was hearing feedback, so I thought I would hold it further away, but okay, great. So I think, one thing that's maybe instructive to just think about is looking at the number of users that platforms like exchanges have, which are in the tens of millions, and the trust that, obviously hosted or not, like custodial wallet models do require a lot of trust, but the trade-off that comes with that is just really like a lot of ease of use for users, and it can bring in just orders of magnitude more users than non-custodial models can. So there are trade-offs to consider. But I think each of these sides sort of has some limitations that do lead to friction for users, depending on which option we're talking about. I think this is something that scams and just bad actors in the space. This is something that still happens every day. I don't know how many folks in this room have ever been rug pulled or ever had their wallets drained, but it is something that still happens and is also it's hard, especially for like most of the wallet experiences that and products that exist today are so bare metal and give users so many options for how they're going to interact with different applications, how they want to, decisions about how fast they want their transactions to be included in blocks, et cetera. So these sorts of options that people don't really honestly, I think, want to think about most of the time. And it's really hard because there is just so much cognitive overhead to interacting with Web3 applications and payments. I think it makes it easier actually sometimes for people to unwittingly participate in a scam and get their, have their wallets drained because it's hard to know the difference between something that's legitimate and something that's not. Going to privacy a little bit, I think this is something that obviously has become a little bit more of a hot topic in the last few years, how to accomplish on-chain privacy. I think today, most people who are operating in Web3 sort of accept default public transactions as just the cost of doing business in Web3. But I think if we really want Web3 to grow and crypto to really be used as sort of this like global payment rails more broadly, on-chain privacy is going to be something that's really important. There's just the demand for this is going to increase over time. So this is something I do see as a barrier today for users actually leveraging crypto for payments and other real world use cases. Gas fees and native gas tokens. There's so much that is happening sort of in the gas optimization and innovation space. But I think one thing that is a real barrier is the fact that especially with simple like EOAs, today, you have to have the underlying gas token for the chain that your wallet exists on in order to complete transactions on that blockchain. And if we think about the multi-chain world that we live in today, you just multiply that complexity across each of these individual networks that a wallet is deployed on. That becomes extremely difficult for users to have to think about. And I think this is, there are solutions that are addressing that particular problem, which I'll talk about in a minute. But again, today, because most wallets that exist are both non-custodial and also not smart contract wallets, they're, dumb wallets or EOAs, this is a pain that a lot of users do ultimately experience. And the last thing I'll sort of mention, which I think is sort of an underrated limitation that really leads to friction, is just the on and off ramping experience. Today, it is absolutely the reality that every one of us is going to be touching fiat if we're also touching crypto. We're not, I don't know really anyone in the world who lives a purely on-chain financial life. And so building really great bridges between fiat and crypto and doing that in a really seamless way is also important to kind of reduce the barrier to people just having really great experiences with Web3 products. Some of these limitations have been addressed. There's been a lot of innovation in the last couple of years with things like account abstraction and MPC signing protocols and multi-sig wallets, et cetera. And some of these, and obviously a lot of the explosion of innovation that's happening in L2s and very recently also, the concept of L3s. So I think, we now have scalability layers that both increase the transaction throughput on blockchains and also decrease the cost as well per transaction, which is great. Also MPC protocols and multi-sig wallets, all of which are not, your standard, usually are not really your standard EOAs. But these are different solutions to basically distribute risk between multiple parties, which increases the sense of safety in your wallet and your trust that you will be able to access your funds whenever you want. There's been a lot of innovation there. Account abstraction has made it easier for people to implement social recovery mechanisms as well, also increasing fund safety. Account abstraction also, and ERC 4337 has kind of introduced solutions for how we can make it possible for users to not have to have native gas tokens in their wallets to pay for on-chain transactions via gas sponsorship, and also gas optimizations, like being able to bundle transactions to reduce the per transaction cost. And then also more recently, we've seen, I think, an explosion in this idea of embedded wallets, which is a nice product and UX improvement that basically associates social identities. It's basically, users not having to connect their own wallet and bring it to an application, and instead being able to create a wallet or have the DApp that they're interacting with create a wallet on their behalf once they authenticate themselves in some other way. So I think all of these, definitely do improve wallet UX significantly and reduce the barrier to interacting with Web3. But I think it's possible for us to do way better. And so what I wanted to spend a few minutes doing was just sort of building out sort of a picture of what a truly exceptional wallet experience could look like. And then maybe transitioning into what are the pieces that we would need to do this on Filecoin. So I think one of the starting blocks of this is just, again, really realizing that, yes, we live in this multi-chain world, and thinking of a wallet instead of just more the technical definition of a wallet is sort of a set of, private keys that control the wallet and a public key, which is the address, and, can hold assets and transfer assets and things like that. Really thinking of wallets at a layer of abstraction that's higher than that, and really thinking of it as a logical grouping of a lot of these different wallets under the hood that exist on many different chains, but being able to uniquely reference this wallet cluster or grouping with some sort of human readable handle. So it's kind of like taking something like ENS, like a .eth address, but doing that in sort of a way that works cross-chain. And I think another thing that can really help here is also introducing features into wallets that make it possible for bridging to happen automatically between chains as needed, instead of having this be something that is a user-facing decision. So that's sort of the first piece, I think. One of the core building blocks is these multi-chain wallets that are addressable across chains, that have automated bridging between chains as needed. I think another piece of this, though, is just making sure that the way that these types of wallets can connect to Web3 applications, making sure that experience is extremely, extremely smooth. I don't know if folks have tried to connect a safe wallet to Uniswap or something, and the experience is actually very confusing. I've been in this space for 7 years, and it took me a while to figure out how to do it right. It's a complicated multi-handshake process, and so I think even though protocols like Wallet Connect have existed for a long time, there still are quite a lot of limitations, especially when you try to build smarter wallets that are doing more for users. There still are limitations in the wallet connection protocols that exist. And I think this is an opportunity for us to do better as an industry, and something that's really needed for users to have great experiences with Web3. The other piece here is, just thinking of how do we solve on-chain privacy. There are so many different solutions to this, and I think it's a whole nother topic that could be debated at length. But I do think that this is to have a really, to have a wallet experience that users really trust. The option for transactions to be private is going to be really important. The next piece here is just, this is maybe a little bit of a hot take, but I think that, there is room for our industry to lean more into shared custody models for wallets. As mentioning before, non-custodial wallets, they do have a lot of trade-offs and a lot of risk with users feeling, responsible for their assets, potentially losing keys, misplacing keys, and then not being able to recover their funds. And I think, we've seen that users are actually pretty comfortable trusting actually regulated financial institutions and others with their money. And so sort of finding a little bit of a middle ground where users are still able to have some of the key shares that control their wallet, but also adding trusted intermediaries in the process too that can help in cases where fund recovery is necessary, I think can actually really ease the UX burden for users as well. And then doing one better on that is, trying to make the experience of interacting with on-chain signatures a lot easier by including things like embedded wallets potentially, or just connecting on-chain, like product approvals and transaction approvals and things in a wallet UI very directly to on-chain signatures. And I think the last piece that I wanted to sort of draw in this picture is really seamlessly integrating fiat into this world. Because I think today, it's very difficult to do this and do it in a way that's regulatorily safe. But I think in order for users to have a really, really exceptional experience with Web3, being able to move funds easily between, converting easily between dollars and USDC, it should feel like you don't have to think about those two things as even separate currencies. It's just sort of using the currency tool that you need to get the job done for whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish, and really thinking of these things more as just like different tools for a job as opposed to completely different products that require like a totally different set of interfaces as well. And automated bridging, including fiat as necessary. So I think in order to build something like that on Filecoin, there are a lot of pieces of infrastructure that I think are sort of necessary that I think some of these things do exist today, but there are a lot of opportunities for builders to build some of like these underlying pieces which can power these experiences, and also many others. So, these include things like node providers to make it really easy for developers to broadcast transactions on the network, and ideally node providers that are also, deployed on other networks that developers are interested in building on, to make it really easy for developers to, have a multi-chain experience that includes Filecoin. We also need a way to receive updates about transactions, understand which, the various statuses of transactions which have been included in blocks. It's in, when transactions have been fully mined, et cetera. So really seamless ways to get notifications about transactions. More smart wallet protocols. So, we could even start with FVM now. Just take like safe and ERC4337 compatible wallet protocols and just start by deploying those on Filecoin. But there's a lot of room for improvement and innovation here too, for different types of smart wallet protocols, and maybe even combining some of the security features of each of these different options into one novel wallet protocol that captures a lot of these opportunities. Continuing to invest in interoperability with other chains. I know XLR now supports Filecoin. It's possible that other projects like this do too. But making sure that there are really seamless bridges between Filecoin and other chains, I think is going to be really important. Signing libraries and signature providers, secure signature providers that can maybe be, that third like shared custody signer that can also help users recover funds if needed. Those feel necessary as well. Stable coins, I believe that there is, wrapped USDC on Filecoin, but there's probably also room for more Filecoin native stable coins that can make it really easy for users to move assets between chains and also just keep value on Filecoin in a way that's stable. Bridges and swap protocols as well, and just automated bridging like we were sort of talking about, so users don't really have to think about what they're bridging to and from, and just having that happen as needed for transactions to complete successfully. Product level approvals, like tying social logins to embedded wallets to just make the on-chain signing experience really seamless for users. Browser extensions to increase the ability to seamlessly interact with dApps that are built basically connect wallet experiences, making those really smooth. Privacy, being able to bundle messages and then integrate it on and off ramps. So I think there's, a lot of pieces here. I know a lot of this stuff is some of these things are being built, some of them maybe are not, but really to bring Filecoin, I think, into the like narrative of Web3 UX in a way that can enable the next billion users of Web3 to also be the next billion users of Filecoin. I think some of these things will be really important. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for listening. Happy to talk about these ideas in more detail.